Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Java Basics. Today we're going to be talking about strings. No, not these. Well, certainly not these. No. We're talking about Java strings. These are variables that can not only store a value, but can do a whole heck of a lot. Whoa. Today's agenda is going to be, what is a string? Some common string methods, which includes the length of the string, the index of, charAt, and finally, two versions of Substring. If you want to learn Java programming, or just programming in general, subscribe to this channel. We put out a lot of videos that range from beginner topics to more advanced programming concepts. Also, please like this video, share it with a friend, and write a comment as well. It goes a long way to help promote a channel like this. Now, let's get back to the video. So let's first start with what is a string. As you can see, I have a class called Learning Strings, and a string is basically just a type for a variable. But it's unlike the primitives. The primitives, meaning integers, doubles, booleans, those only hold values. As you can see, the string type begins with an uppercase S, which indicates something else. It's more of a complex variable type. In other words, it's a class. Now, when you have a variable that is a type, which is a class, there's a lot of extra things that you can do with it. For example, with a string, you can ask it questions. What are some of the questions you can ask? Well, some of those common methods that I showed you just a few moments ago. You can ask the string, what's your length? How long are you? You can ask the string, do you have an X contained within your value? What's your third letter? What's the third letter all the way to the seventh letter? And so on. So there are lots of things that you can ask the string to do. Let's take a look at a few of those. So strings have many methods that we could use, and we're going to discuss 5 of them right now. The first one is length. Now, I'd like to just first explain what you're looking at here. This means that when you create a string, you have the authorization to ask the string, what is your length? That's what public means. This is the return type. In other words, what kind of answer are you going to get when you ask the string, what is your length? Well, you should get an integer back. My length is 7 letters long. That's an integer. This is the method name, the name of the method that you will be using to ask the string, what's your length? Usually these are pretty intuitive. The parentheses, open and close, have nothing in them. What goes inside is something that we'll discuss in a little bit when we get to one of the other methods. So let's first take a look at how we will use length. So here's my first string. I'm going to assign it a value. And we're going to set it equal to hello. How are you? With a question mark. And we want to know what is the length of this string. So let's create a variable, len, and that variable will be set equal to my first string. Now, when we want to ask this string a question, in other words, when we want to call the length method, we have to use the dot operator. So when I put a dot after my variable, as you can see, it pops up all these different methods that I can call on the string. And here's length. Now, I don't have to use that. I could just type length, open parentheses, close parentheses, semicolon. And now I'm going to print this variable. Let's try it. As you can see, we have the answer 19. So we are printing 19. This variable contains that value. How many letters are there? Well, if you count, you will see 19 characters. The comma and the spaces all count as characters. So we can just see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. Let's take a look at another method, indexOf. Now, once again, we have public. That means that we are allowed to call this method as opposed to private. This is the return type, what we expect as our answer. We're going to get an integer answer. This is the name of the method, indexOf. And what this method is supposed to do is this method is going to return the position of a letter or letters within your string. Now, which letters are we going to look for? That's what this is. This is the parameter of this method. A parameter of a method is information that the method needs in order to do its job. In other words, if I have this method and I want to look up and see if a certain sequence of characters or letters is contained within my string, I'm going to need to know what letters I need to look for. That's what this is. Let's see how this works. Let's declare another variable, integer, and it'll be the position of A. And that's going to be equal to my first string dot indexOf. So I'm asking my first string, I want you to find the first occurrence of the letter A. And as you can see, I am passing in, I'm giving this method some information. I'm passing in the letter A as a string. And this method will then take this A, look for the first position, and then return it. And now let's print it. And as you can see, we get the number 11. Well, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, the reason why this is not 12 is because Java always begins with the number 0, with position 0. So this H is actually in position 0. So let's count again. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Now what happens if I have a capital A here? Let's run this. As you can see, we get a -1. Well, why are we getting a -1? There certainly is an A in this string. Well, actually, the reason is we're looking for a lowercase a. Java doesn't find a lowercase a. It found an uppercase a, but in Java, case matters. So we would need to look for a lowercase a. We would need to look for an uppercase a in this case. Let's change it back. Now, what happens if we look for an O? Well, which one will it find? There's 2 O's. Let's see. As you can see, it returns the position of the first one. 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's take a look at another method, charAt. Again, public means we have the authorization to use this method. Char, that's a variable that stores one letter, and it actually stores the ASCII code of that letter. So it's kind of like a number, sort of, okay? This is what we're going to get as a return from this method. This is the answer we're going to get. charAt will do the following. You give me the position that you're interested in, and I will tell you what letter exists at that position. Let's see how it works. We're going to declare a variable called char. I'll call it my char. And I'm going to set my char equal to my first string dot charAt. And which character do we want? How about we take the character in position 10? And now let's print. And let's run, see what happens. We get a blank. Why is it a blank? Well, let's see. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, that makes sense. Let's try with 9. So if we try it with 9, we shouldn't get this character, we should get the W, which is right before it. Let's see. And there is our W. Now, quick question. What's the range of values that we're allowed to pass in here? Like, for example, what happens if we pass in 100? What's going to happen? Let's see. Let's run it and see what happens. We get an error. As you can see, this is Java's way of telling you that you have a problem or a runtime error inside your code. You can see here it says string index out of range, and it tells you that's the value, and it also tells you where it is. As you can see, learningstrings.main, line 14. So it tells you exactly where the error is. Of course, I can't pass a negative number in as well. That would give me the same error. I could pass in a 0. That would give me the first letter. Let's take a look at the fourth method. So the fourth method is called Substring. Again, public. We have access to use it. It's returning, this time, a new string. Here's the name of the method, Substring. Now, what does this method do? This method will take in the beginning index, so a position in the string, and it will return a portion of the string, starting at the position that you passed in all the way to the end. So for example, if we have a string like this, and let's say whatever the word is, let's say we pass in the beginning index of 1. Now remember, Java starts at 0. So here we have position 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if we pass in position 1, what we will get back is, starting at position 1, all the way to the end of the string. Basically, we'll be chopping off the first letter. Let's give it a try and see how it works. We'll declare a new variable. Let's call it str1. And we will set str1 equal to my first string dot substring, and we are going to pass in the number, how about we pass in the number 2? That means we're going to start at the character in the second position. 0 is H, 1 is E, 2 is L, and it's going to go all the way to the end. So what we would expect this str1 value to be is LLO, comma, and so on. Let's print it and see what we get. And that's exactly what we got. It started at position 2 and went all the way to the end. Now there's one other method that I'd like to talk about today, and that's called substring again. But you can see that there's a different set of parameters this time. So again, it's public. We get a string back. It's going to do the same thing, return a portion of our string, but this time it's not going to take the beginning index and go all the way to the end. It's going to start at the beginning index and end at the end index. However, there's one thing to keep in mind. Let's take a look again at our string. Here we have 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, we have 5-letter string. Say it's the word hello. Let's say the beginning index is, let's go with 1 again, and let's say the ending index is 3. The way that this will work is it will start at 1 and go all the way up to, but not including 3. So it will go all the way up to here, and that's what it will return. So once again, we start at the beginning index, we go up to, but we don't include the character in the ending index, and we just return all the stuff in the middle. Let's try it. So we're going to declare another variable, str2, and we're going to set that equal to my first string dot substring. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to pass in, we'll start with the number 2 again, but this time we'll pass in the number 9 as an ending position, and then we will print. So let's see what we would expect. Here's our string. We want to start at position 2, 0, 1, 2, so we're starting there. This is position 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but remember, we don't include 9, so we should expect to see LLO, comma, space, And that's exactly what we got. Two more things I want to talk about. One is there are other ways to declare and assign a value to a string. Here we have the variable declared, and then we assign the value. We could just assign the value this way. We'll call it x, and we could just say x equals hello. And there's a third way of doing it. Because string is a class, in other words, it begins with a capital letter, because it's a class, we can actually say string y is equal to, we could say we're going to create a new string, and inside the parentheses, we're going to tell it the value. This is another way of creating a string. So these are some alternate ways of creating a string. And sometimes you'll see one, sometimes you'll see the other. Now there are lots of other methods that we can use for a string, and we can look those up by going to a search engine like Google and typing Java string, and you can see I've already done that, Java string class. And what will happen is we'll get something usually from docs.oracle.com. And when we click on it, you'll see here's the specification of the string class. And if we scroll down, all the way down to method summary, you'll see all the different methods that you can call on a string. And there's a whole bunch. You can see here's charAt. As we scroll down, there's a lot of different ways, a lot of different methods here. We should see indexOf, correct. We should see length at some point. Here's length. And of course, we're going to see substring down here. They're all alphabetical. And here are the two substring methods that we went over. I hope you learned something from watching this video. Please remember to subscribe and share this video with others who are learning Java programming. Thanks for watching, and take care, everyone.